Okay. Let me get back to my computer again where I was at. Okay, our speakers this evening are Carl Franklin and Viviana Ricardez, and they're from Texas Turtles, and they're talking about Texas Turtles. I think I visited that lab at UTA at one time when they were having a group tour. But the information on the meeting tonight says Texas is home to almost half the turtle diversity in the United States, with 3 species naturally occurring only here. Carl Franklin and Viviana will discuss the priceless value of turtles, their intriguing behavior, and the challenges that threaten their existence. Carl and Viviana run Texas Turtles, a nonprofit organization devoted to the conservation of these amazing creatures through research, studying their native environment, and outreach education. For over 28 years, Carl has worked with the herpetology department at the Fort Worth Zoo and Dallas Zoo and the Amphibian and Reptile Diversity Research Center at UT Arlington. He has conducted numerous collection expeditions internationally and in the United States that have led to scientific breakthroughs and the discovery of hundreds of new species of amphibians and reptiles. Viviana has traveled across the state to conduct multiple long-term population monitoring studies and conservation endeavors, including organizing Texas Turtles research sites. So we welcome them, and we look forward to see what they have to say and educate us about something that we all see and know about, but don't know the details. So, Viviana, you want to begin?
Hi, everyone. Thank you guys so much. Yes, I'm Viviana. Thank you for joining us here to listen to us talk about turtles when there's a historic Ranger game going on. And I'll probably try to do a ask for an update halfway through the talk. So other than the Rangers, and I kind of didn't really think that I would see the day the Rangers are in the World Series, right? Those of us that have been here for so long, this talk means a lot to me because I was born and raised right here, born at Arlington Memorial Hospital. And this is what we call, we refer to as my home range. Turtles and tortoises have a home range, and I'll kind of tie that in. Carl was also born at Arlington Memorial Hospital. So Arlington is my place where it all started for me. It all started for me right here in Arlington. And just like for all of us that we refer to ourselves as turtle nerds, it started with just one little turtle. And for me, it was a red-eared slider crossing the road at I-20 in Green Oaks, right there where the I-20 animal clinic is and McDonald's and stuff. And my dad stopped and picked it up for me. And I was obsessed with everything animals, as you can see. And that's all it took. And I was really curious about where was it going? Why did it have long nails? Why did it have this? Why was that? So we kept it for a little while, which we know now not to do. And from there, I just went to bookstores, zoos. The Fort Worth Botanic Gardens was a big place for me growing up, trying to learn about turtles, to go look at turtles. Fair Park was a big one for myself and also for Carl. A lot of the local city parks here in Arlington, Cliff Nelson, I was there all the time, River Legacy, of course, and then a few local reptile expos that were happening in the 90s here in Arlington. Of course, Halloween. Here's my 4th grade Halloween costume with the turtle, and then my first group of box turtles. After the slider, I really wanted a tortoise. And back in the 90s, there was lots of pet stores in Arlington, and box turtles were sold for like $20 back then. And so my dad suggested me getting an ornate box turtle. We went to a little pet store right there on Little Road. It's where Striplings and Cox used to be. No Frills Grill is there now. I think now it's an LA Fitness. And that's where I got my first ornate box turtle. And it was pretty common to see them in pet stores back in the 90s. And I think I had heard plenty of pet store owners saying that they would pick them up crossing the road and then turn around and sell them. And now we know that that's not a good thing, which I'll get into. But I mentioned my home range and box turtles. And box turtles are known to have a very small home range. So they want to get back to where they're from. And just like that, with me being born and raised in Arlington, I'm happy to finally move back and bought my house here. And this is where I plan to stay and plan to be. And I think a lot of people even know that like sea turtles, once they hatch, they go back to nest at the beach that they were hatched at. So yeah, box turtles and everything happening in Arlington back then was just what set me down this path, I guess you could say. So the question that I've gotten asked over and over and over is why turtles? And I don't think I have a good answer for that to this day, other than there's so much to be learned and there's so much about turtles. It's really, really awesome. There's a great article that came out a few years ago called Where Have All the Turtles Gone and Why Does It Matter? And it goes into the great detail and the science behind why turtles and tortoises are so important in our waterways and our ecosystems, their biomass, just their role that they play is so important. And before the talk started, we were talking about a lot of myths, and people think that turtles are bad, or people wanting to eliminate turtles from the area. Their ponds or river systems, especially people that have private ponds, they think that they'll eat all the fish, and that's not true. They're actually probably the most important thing that's going to be in your pond to keep everything in a better order and balance. So turtles and tortoises are now the most endangered group of vertebrates, with 60% of our turtle and tortoise species facing extinction. And they're facing all the threats that we've heard about, from habitat loss, urbanization, poaching for the pet trade, poaching for the food trade, mortality with human-animal interactions, cars, trot line fishing, those kind of things. So with turtle and tortoises declining across the globe, it's really important that we look and we do our research and kind of be proactive, especially for those of us here in Texas. I mentioned the pet trade and smuggling. It's the biggest killer of turtles and tortoises, and turtles from Texas and across the US, across the globe, are poached out of their area at record numbers, being sent overseas to China. So that's a huge, huge issue that we're constantly thinking about and that people are combating every day. And the more we can do to have people know about how important they are and kind of hopefully curb some of this poaching and this, stuff that's going on, which Carl will also get into as well. As you've heard, Texas is big. We've got a huge state here, and these amazing ecoregions that I think many people know about. Doesn't matter where you are in the state. We've got piney woods, the hill country of Central Texas. There's really great diversity of lots of plants and wildlife across the state, especially for turtles. So there's some turtles that you may only find in East Texas. There's turtles that you may only find in Central Texas, and some that specifically, call North Texas home. So it's really, really makes it great for a turtle nerd like me. With 36 different species, different types of turtles, that gives us a lot of ground to cover, a lot of area, a lot of turtling, and stuff to be done. So really exciting for those of us that love turtles and just anything wildlife. We have 4 endemic species, meaning found nowhere else in the world. These 4 turtles are found in Central Texas. I won't be able to cover these, or I'll cover just a few specific to Arlington, but this is the Texas map turtle, Texas cooter, the Kegel's map turtle, and the Guadalupe spiny softshell. I have other videos out on YouTube where I go into these guys specifically, but these guys are Central Texas, and I'm going to try to stick to mostly Arlington, Tarrant County, North Texas for this talk. So we are Texas turtles. We were the conceptual idea by Carl Franklin, and texasturtles.org started out as just a website in 2007. And then we got our nonprofit status in 2019. Mentioned Carl's our president, myself as vice president, and our secretary, Sal Shabeta. And our goal and our mission is to fill a Texas-sized hole in our knowledge of the turtles and tortoise species here that call Texas home. There's a term that we use a lot, turtling, and we do a lot of turtle surveys, which I'll touch base on. And then our work, the main kind of a lot of what we do is long-term population monitoring studies, education outreach, a lot of scientific publications. All the work we do goes into a scientific publication, and then just overall documenting of species across the state. Here's a few that just came out this past year, all on alligator snapping turtles that Carl will get into. We've gotten some good amount of publicity, of local publicity, Channel 8 News, Channel 5 News, even a local podcast specifically towards Arlington. So that's been really cool, sharing and getting information out about turtles on the local level. And then at the state level, D Magazine had an article about us last year, I believe. And then even just recently, just this past month, Texas Monthly had their first article on the spiny softshell turtle, and Carl talked to them about that and did some stories, put some information in there. So it was really neat to see the spiny softshell in Texas Monthly and turtles getting covered on for the first time in Texas Monthly like this. And then in 2020, we did a premiere episode with Coyote Peterson on Animal Planet. Coyote started out as a YouTuber. He's mainly a YouTuber with 21.1 million subscribers. So February 2020, we filmed with him in 2019, and then the episode aired. And I think you can still find it on YouTube and Animal Planet. And then we did another couple episodes with him after that. So really cool, again, getting to showcase some really neat Texas turtle species on the big screen, if you will. We have about 8 to 9 different survey sites, different research locations across the state. So that gives us a lot of work to do and lots of miles that we've traveled. One aspect, I guess, the main, what we refer to as the long-term population monitoring studies, the mark, measure, weigh, pit tag, is where we go to these different survey sites either once a year or twice a year, and we mark using baited hoop traps, catch as many turtles as we can, collect a series of measurements, give everything a notch, give some turtles this pit tag, which is just like the little micro pit tag that you put in your cat or dog. And so that way we go year after year after year or twice a year and really can learn a lot by doing these mark and recapture studies. So that's kind of where our real meat and potatoes and the real aspect, the heavy lifting of our work entails. So I'm going to kick off with talking about a turtle that we kind of refer to it as just a slider. And it's a very common species of turtle across the state, across the US, especially here in North Texas. And they are one of the most invasive species across the globe. However, they are native here. So they kind of don't get as much respect as maybe some of the other ones, but they pose a huge ecological benefit and role. Here's an example of seed dispersal from this female red-eared slider. And the reason I'm going to start with this little turtle is it kind of was the turtle that started a lot for me. First one crossing the road, and then it kind of brought it back to Arlington for me, I guess you could say. I have not told this story before. I'm going to tell a little story about a place that I refer to as the magical spring lake and how it all started with just one little turtle, just a slider, right? So many of you know Jamie Bruner. She's a member of your Arlington Conservation Council, and she had contacted me about some other turtle things that were happening in their private little area called Spring Lake. And so this is in Arlington back 2017. And she sent me this picture after we exchanged, talk and email, and I stopped in and visited. And I had never seen a slider with its head in the water like this, just its head totally drooping down. And I was like, I guess that turtle maybe is dying, wasn't quite sure what was going on. And so I said, well, you might find it floating dead later. I can't really tell you from just a picture. Anyways, it ended up being much more than that. A local veterinarian and some friends of ours who's a certified rehabber and some young kiddos that live there and around Spring Lake and that visit Spring Lake frequently were able to catch this turtle that was bobbing. She wasn't able to submerge and completely go under. So I'm like, okay, it sounds like some sort of upper respiratory, something keeping her from being able to swim normally. So Katie and Brad Holka came in, and she'll tell you, I really didn't have much hopes for this turtle recovering. I just wasn't sure. I just thought, okay, it'll pass away. It's really, really hard to say what was actually going on. So they x-rayed, looked like some sort of pneumonia, something. So Katie ran a bunch of antibiotics, did all these amazing things, and she was able to get this turtle to fully recover, right? And so the girls and the local kiddos, this is Kai and Kennedy, which I'll start off talking about a little bit, named her Cracker. So she called Cracker because of this little V-shape marked in her shell there. And if you notice this little Spring Lake logo that Jamie made about for these girls' little adventure club, because this turtle kind of started a whole bunch of really awesome adventures for us. She's got a little chip in her shell there. So these kiddos and then everyone on Spring Lake kind of fascinated or took to the story of this little turtle named Cracker. She was released. We had a big release party, and the girls, the kiddos all around wanted to learn more. So I told them about what the work week that I did and taught them about how to take measurements and just, turtle stuff 101. And they really, really enjoyed it. So the first year we set hoop traps and caught a bunch of snappers and mark, measure, weighed, pit tagged. And so we've been doing this just about every year since 2017. There's kind of the how it started and how it's going, and just how young Kai and Kennedy and the Gabby and the kiddos at Spring Lake were when we first started. And these kiddos can really do it all by themselves right now. Like, they can set hoop traps, they can collect data. They, almost don't need me. And I really love sitting back and watching them collect all these data, all this information on these turtles. And now here we are, present day. Kennedy's a senior at Arlington High School, and Kai is a junior at Brewer High School. And we did it all again this past year. So it's been really neat watching these kiddos develop and grow up into incredible young ladies. And the reason, like I said, this all happened here in Arlington. I didn't realize at the time just how much it was going to mean to me and just how much it was going to impact everyone at Spring Lake. And I know Jamie will say she had no idea she was going to learn so much about turtles. And huge thanks to all the families at Spring Lake, because they really were the starting point for us. They got Texas turtles off the ground. They were our first donations that got us to get our filing for a nonprofit, to get our shirts, to really get us to where we are now. So I'm so thankful. I want to thank them so much, because it's just been really, really neat watching, and everybody, joining in some really, really awesome fun for over there at Spring Lake. So this is a private event, it's people's yards, it's people's backyards. So it's just, not something that the public can come out to, but it's been really, really awesome. And like I said, it just brought everything full circle for me, bringing it back here in Arlington and kind of it kicking off to bringing Texas turtles where we are now. This is our public event. And I mentioned Fair Park being a big place for myself and Carl that got us excited about turtles, and was able, we were able to kind of get up close. If you know the lagoon at Fair Park, they've got these red kind of things that go through the water, and you can kind of just walk next to them. It was the first place that I saw a common snapping turtle as a kid, and just getting to see so many. So we had our eye on this location for a few years before COVID happened, of like, man, we really need to do a survey here. And yes, see how many turtles are too many turtles, because that's a common theme. People think that there's too many snappers, there's too many turtles. See the condition of the turtles is such a thing. And then also just make it a really great public event for people to actually come see turtles up close and see the work we do. So our first, this was May 2022, third weekend in May. It's around World Turtle Day. And like I said, volunteers, citizens, people from zoos, and it was just a really, really great turnout. And it was just became such a fun event. We had our second one this past year. Again, people from all over coming and helping us out. We've got a lot of really great local volunteers, people from zoos, local turtle nerds. Just been a really, really great event. And then the cool thing is seeing lots of new kiddos join in and come dressed as turtles and wanting to know the mark, measure, weigh, pit tag and what I'm collecting, what the data is going towards. So it's just been our best local event for people to come out and see. Citizen science is the biggest aspect and the biggest part of what we do. And it's been how we've been able to accomplish so much. So it's just been really amazing seeing everything that we've gotten done. Citizen science and private landowners. 95% of Texas is privately owned land. So that really, allows us to get some really neat and a lot of work done in such a short amount of time. Our biggest private landowner event, we've had a couple dealing with alligator snapping turtles that Carl will talk to you about. Our Snapperpalooza event that's twice a year, kicked off 2021. We do this twice a year. It's been a really great event where we catch at least 7 to 10 turtles per survey. So it's really lived up to its name as Snapperpalooza. And I'll let Carl fill you in on all those. So moving to who are the turtles in your neighborhood? Who are the turtles that you see every day? The things that we see in our backyards, in our river systems, in river legacy. I'm going to start off with the spiny softshell. These are these big pancake-like rubbery turtles. They're really fast. They move through our rivers very quickly. And why are they called spiny soft shells? They don't have spines. Nothing's going to poke you, but they have this sandpaper-like texture along the top of their carapace here. And you kind of see here on the back. And here's these bumps along. Really long necks, snorkel-like nose. We have 3 different subspecies. So the one we have here in North Texas is the palid spiny softshell. They are a very dimorphic turtle where females get much larger than males. So you see a big female out basking, a big, huge, bigger than a dinner plate turtle, that's a female out. And the males stay much smaller. So here's the side-by-sides of the males and the females. Just a really feisty, slippery turtle. This little story happened in my backyard practically. I had a neighbor call me and they said, hey, there's a dead turtle up here. And it's a good example of pollution and what, humans do and litter impacting our wildlife. This female softshell found this discarded pair of pants and I guess looked like a cool place to go hide and, snuggle into, but got stuck and couldn't get out. So she drowned in this pair of discarded pants. And this was June, I believe. Yeah, June 2020. Again, here in Arlington. And we finally cut her out of the pants. She was also full of eggs. So another interesting, huge impact of trash and human interacting that's affecting our local wildlife. The next turtle we have is river cooters. One of 3 different species of cooters we have here in Texas. This is the one you'll find in North Texas, a large, hard-shelled, hard-bodied turtle with a really beautiful, intricate pattern. They lack this red ear. Here's a side-by-side of a red-eared slider. With the red ear, you can still kind of make it out, and just the overall different pattern and shape. Again, females get much larger. Just a really big, beautiful turtle that you'll see. The Mississippi map turtle, a small, just a gem of a turtle that can, you can find here at River Legacy. We have a spot at River Legacy. We like to go look at them. The male's much smaller. Here's a male next to a big old female, and the really unique shell shape. And again, where they can be found, the counties they can be found here in Texas. They've got a much higher keel. Like I said, the females get much larger, have a much larger head, and just a unique turtle. And this turtle looks different, all across its range across the state. But one that you can see here, the Big River and the Trinity River, River Legacy. And you can kind of see their really neat shell shape, that high keel and that white eyeball there. We've got different mud and musk turtles here in Fort Arlington, Tarrant County, across the state. We have 2 types of musk turtles and 2 types of mud turtles that can be found in Arlington. And these guys are called little stinkers for a reason. They have these glands under the edge of their shell that excrete the stinky musk, hence giving them the name musk turtle. And the razorback musk turtle is one that you can find here in the Trinity River. We see a lot. It's got this, again, a very high keel. They stay small. Common musk turtles, yellow mud turtles, Mississippi mud turtles can all be found here in Arlington. Here's a side-by-side of a razorback musk turtle basking next to these Mississippi map turtles, and a little bitty razorback musk turtle basking right here in the Trinity River. Mud turtles and musk turtles, again, they look very similar, but mud turtles have this belly. Their plastron they have a bigger plastron than that of the musk turtle, and they have a hinge where they can kind of close up a little bit. Again, a wide distribution found all across the state. And if you're really curious, if you have a mud or musk turtle, not sure, look at their bellies. The mud turtles, like I said, have a bigger area coverage, that hinge plastron, than the musk turtle, this much smaller, reduced plastron. And they look very similar. So it's kind of hard to tell, but check out the plastron, take your pictures, and you can help you figure it out that way. Here, and of course, an adorable little baby musk turtle. This one came from Spring Lake, that hatched out at Spring Lake as well. Really cute, really tiny, and a side-by-side of a common musk turtle and a little Mississippi mud turtle there. Again, you see just how tiny they are. The ornate box turtle, I mentioned my first box turtle. This is a prairie dwelling turtle that was once definitely more common here in North Texas, more common in Arlington, more common, just even 20, 30 years ago, since I was a kid. And a lot of people have lots of fond memories of seeing lots and lots of ornate box turtles in this area years ago. Definitely decline thanks to urbanization. They can still be found if you're lucky, like say driving from North Texas to Oklahoma, places in Oklahoma. If you get lucky, find one crossing the road. So a very unique species. Again, it really was really popular, still really popular in the pet trade, and major risk has been habitat loss, but a very charming little turtle. My favorite, the three-toed box turtle. Again, both these box turtles have a relatively small home range. The three toes vary. They can be plain brown, or they can have this beautiful coloration, these yellow variations. It's definitely one of my favorite. And these are the forest dwelling. They love high humidity, and a lot of people have kept these as pets as many, many years. I had my first group very young. And so it's quite a charismatic little turtle. And then here's an example of a three-toed box turtle completely boxed up, completely sealed up in true box turtle fashion. Many of you know Michael Smith. He's a local reptile educator, writer, author, and he gave me a call just last week over at the Sherry Cape Heart Nature Preserve, where he spotted this female three-toed box turtle. And this preserve is right a few streets over where I grew up. And so I remember what that area was like, pre-development. And he was excited to see this box turtle, but he had a really, really great observation that we don't really see nowadays. So he has his full story. He posted the full story on our Facebook, and then this is his website to go check it out when it gets published. Like I said, you can see it on our Facebook first. People look at box turtles, and it's kind of counterintuitive to thinking that they don't swim, but they swim very, very well. Even tortoises can swim pretty well. So it's just a really neat observation that he wrote up and shared with us about watching this female three-toed box turtle swim there and just take off and swim. So I'll let y'all go and enjoy that really neat little story, really neat observation. Carl also wrote a book called The Complete North American Box Turtle. So lots of box turtle information here. He's also written a couple other stuff, a pamphlet, and then has his first book. So if you're interested in all things box turtles, that's definitely a book to go check out. We have common snappers and alligator snapping turtles here in Arlington, here in North Texas. Carl's going to talk about the alligator snapping turtles. The common snapping turtle here, a lot of people get them confused. They think every turtle is a snapping turtle, or they think every turtle is a alligator snapping turtle. The common snappers are going to have this much smoother, rounder shell, a much longer neck, and a much smaller head than that of the alligator snapping turtle. And you can also see their ranges on these maps and just where alligator snapping turtle habitat is compared to the common snapper across the state. So yeah, they also have a reduced plastron. They're very cute. They're kind of charming, to me at least, until you get them out of the water, but they are pretty feisty. So there you go, like I said, much smaller head, just a really, like I said, Jamie calls them shell puppies, because they can be. And then of course they're feisty. They've got this nasty reputation. They get all mean and huffy and puffy, but it's so easy. So many kids can safely hold common snapping turtles, especially Kai. Obviously, she's been doing it for so long. Like I mentioned, we do have alligator snapping turtles here in Arlington, in North Texas, and I'll let Carl fill you in on all that. Again, finishing up with the red-eared slider. The toughest turtles around. They are native to these parts of the U.S., native to Texas, can just be found widely across the globe even nowadays. And they're just the iconic baby turtle that everyone has had some sort of interaction with, or grown up with, or had one at some point, because they'd sell them at pet stores, more so when we were growing up. So just an iconic when it comes to a baby turtle. But what about this turtle? Okay, it's black, it's very dark. What's going on here? So when red-eared sliders mature, they undergo this color shift and they become dark browns, olive greens, and they lose a little bit of that red ear. So they can, will lose that redder completely. So here's an example. You see the red is fading away. They've got a very unique look to them. It's the biggest question we get year after year, day after day, of what kind of turtle is this? Because it just doesn't look like, a typical redder slider. So that's what you're seeing if you see this dull, very unique, plain, maybe kind of drab redder slider. It's an old male redder slider. Texas is home to the smallest tortoise species. They live like South Texas, south of San Antonio, but Texas tortoises do pop up here in North Texas, pop up here in Arlington, and are commonly confused with turtles that come in from the pet trade, the Russian tortoise, the sulcata tortoise. Sulcata tortoise has been in the news a lot lately because they grow very, very huge and escape. So we do have some side-by-side information for people to help be able to identify if you're actually looking at a Texas tortoise, if it's a Texas tortoise out of our range, and you can, reach out to us for assistance, or if it's a Russian tortoise that you found, looks like it's in the wild, that it was somebody's pet that they had released or no longer wanted, or it got out. So there is that to be aware of when it comes to native versus not native, released pets. We do have released pets that show up. We had quite a few show up today on our Facebook. So kind of interesting. But Texas tortoises are neat, and they're charming, and they're charismatic, and they are protected, but people do try to pick them up if they're coming back from South Texas and want to keep them as pets, and then they escape up here. So something to definitely be aware of if you come across something and you're not sure what it is, and feel free to reach out to us. This is what 1 year's worth of turtling and 1 year's worth of turtle surveys looks like. This is our second year, 2022. And this past year, we're wrapping up. Just a lot of work. I have some incredible volunteers. Very lucky to have so many people come together and help us accomplish all this work and to get all these things published, and just bring so much awareness to everything going on with turtles and tortoises this day. We have incredible shirts, merch. That's how you find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and our website, and lots of big hopes for the future. We have so much coming, so much, that we're gearing up for in 2024, and just a really exciting look after everything we've accomplished in the last 3 years. Again, thank you to everyone at Spring Lake. This is everyone that's helped us over these past few years and gotten so much, gotten us so far. So I'll take a few questions while I set up and while I queue up for Carl to come on here for y'all.
Okay, there haven't been any posted yet in chat.
Now, can y'all see this presentation?
Yes.
Okay,
I have a
cool.
question. I don't know if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Viviana, would you explain a little more the kind of data that you get from these long-term population studies?
sure. As far as like male to female ratios, how many, it's supposed like the first thing we get to see is like a population size and see how, the actual population of a given area or whatever survey site. And then we can find out male to female ratios. We can find out any ouchies or any, all kinds of stuff. It's really the jumping off point for so many questions and answers, I guess, in short.
I'd like to add.
Database?
Say that again?
Are you building a database?
Yes, we have everything in a database, and we're permanent, of course, through Texas Parks and Wildlife. We have all this information in our systems, and then of course we do an annual report to Texas Parks and Wildlife every year. I hope that answers. Sure.
Someone was asking how you mentioned a YouTube channel earlier. Can you post that link in the chat?
Yeah, I'll have to get it to you. I can get you the specific video. If you go to Brave Wilderness on YouTube or just Brave Wilderness Alligator Snapping Turtle, our episodes come up. That's probably the quickest way to go to YouTube. Brave Wilderness Alligator Snapping Turtle or Legendary Turtle of Texas. It also comes up that way, just Googling it. So yeah, I'll try to send it once Carl gets done talking about alligator snappers.
Okay.
Anyone else?
I would like to add on the turtle surveys and some of the data that Viviana and Carl collect. It's been useful for us on Spring Lake because we're a private lake and we've been doing some things to improve the habitat for all the animals. We've added aerators. Like I said, we added the fish before. Some of the things that we do, we want to make sure that it doesn't harm the wildlife. So having Viviana's data where we can look at numbers year over year to see whether our population is growing or decreasing has helped us know as a private lake that what we're doing is okay. But we're also experiencing problems with cyanobacteria in our waterway, which is also known as blue-green algae. And I have big concerns about this, and it's something I'd like to talk to ACC about in the future, because it does kill dogs. It doesn't kill people necessarily, but it can make us sick. It's spreading across the US because of fertilizer use and different problems. So right now, in the last couple of years, we've had a couple of really bad cyanobacteria blooms in our little body of water. Well, because Viviana and Carl have been coming out doing their turtle surveys for so long, we've got data that we have from before these cyanobacteria blooms and data after. And Viviana noted at our last turtle survey that some of them are starting to lose a little bit of weight. Is it connected to cyanobacteria? Is it not? She has come out, she did a necropsy on, I mean, it wasn't an official necropsy because she didn't weigh the organs and stuff, but she has looked at dead turtles in our lake. It helps me as a citizen of Arlington know that what we're doing in our body of water is not harming these animals. And that's one of the best parts of the turtle surveys for me, from an outsider, is just knowing that our population is okay, knowing what the weights and the sizes are of our turtles, that they're thriving or they're not, and do we need to change something. So they've just been an amazing resource for us. And I have a feeling that as they look at their data that they've collected from all these sites, they can see big changes, albeit slow changes, because Viviana, turtles don't get sick right away. It takes a while for this stuff to show up. So having year-over-year data really helps. The work that y'all are doing is great, but we may not know things until 10 years from now, right?
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Definitely takes that consistent, that repetitiveness. A few more things came in the chat. Someone posted, where have all the turtles gone and why does it matter? Like I said, excellent read. The actual nitty-gritty and science of how and why turtles are so important. Somebody asked about the droughts on the turtles, not that we know of, and where do they go? A lot of turtles estivate, they hunker down in the mud. Again, it depends. We've been out surveying visually and trapping when the freeze happened and the ice mageddon and the snow mageddon happened, and then we've seen through this drought, and yes, they tend to move into deeper waters. It's hard to really gauge where they go, but we've been watching just the whole state change through all these environmental things. And a lot of people thought that we were going to have a lot of dead turtles and tortoises after the ice and snow, and I mean, they're really, really a resilient animal. They hunkered down in the snow. You know, maybe there was a couple of ice cold related deaths. It's hard to say, you know, because you don't know if they were compromised or sick before the freeze. And then there have been times where an area or pond will dry up really quickly. And we've seen this out turtling, and the pond disappears and everybody goes to cross the road to get to the next pond, creek, or stream, and then they get hit by cars. So there's that type of adverse reaction. So I hope I answered some of the questions in the chat before I turn it over to Carl.
Yeah, I think we ought to go to Carl because it's already 10 till 8.
All right, here we go.
Okay. Let's see. Hello, everybody.
Howdy.
All righty. Hey, I'm Carl. I know you guys know that already. And I'll go ahead and get started on my end of the Texas Turtles presentation. Thanks again for having us out and all. One thing well, touch on a question that we had earlier about what do we do with the data. One of the things that we've done with data, especially with alligator snapping turtles, is that we've been able to provide that information to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Alligator snapping turtles are a protected species here in Texas, and so they are protected and covered by law here. It's illegal to take them or have them without the proper permits and so forth. But they were nominated to be included in the Endangered Species Act, covered under that. And we were able to, us and other biologists working with this species in Texas, were able to provide data during the elicitation process. And the overall, it was a really welcome amount of information. These animals are not in the clear to be taken off of a protected list, but I don't know if they're going to make the endangered species list. Personally, I, for one, am in favor of them remaining solely state protected. I feel like one level of law to protect them should be enough. And I think it's possible here in Texas to do that and accomplish that. And I think I'll fulfill that in this talk. I'll get started. And one thing I want to do is go over, let's see here. Do you have my screen pulled up?
Yeah, they're seeing that.
Oh, I don't see what they're seeing.
No, this is what they see. There we
Okay. All right.
Hold on, there we go. Now you just had to click it.
Okay. All right. Here's some people that I want to thank for helping me out and making this to where I'm able to do this stuff. One is my wife, Jackie. And this woman has put up with me for more than 3 decades. And even way back when I told her what I wanted to do, she still stuck by. So thanks, honey. The other folks, of course, y'all met Viviana, but then also Sal, our secretary. Sal's a venerable reptile man, and he's located down in San Antonio. And we wouldn't be able to do what we do without the 3 of us working on this. And I'm telling you, it's really exciting. I've had the privilege of working with lots of other people in the field, lots of other biologists and herpetologists, and it feels like we're the fabulous free birds of turtle biology here in Texas. You know, the history of alligator snapping turtles here in Tarrant County goes back to 1958 as far as what we know. So we do know that these animals have been here in Tarrant County in the Trinity River system. And here's a historic photo from UT Arlington Archives from 1958. That's an adult female specimen that he has right there. And we posted this on the Facebook group, and someone replied, "Hey, that was my uncle. I used to go there, and his name is such and so." It was great to be able to get that kind of other side of the story. Whenever we're out trapping, sometimes we can pull up a really fine assortment of things. And right here, we've got 2 different kinds of snapping turtles. We've got red-eared sliders. There's a catfish, and we've got a spiny softshell turtle. This can also, not only can it be exciting to find all this in your trap, you can get some exercise too, just by having to lift this out. And then, of course, being able to remove the turtles from it. So we do have 2 species of snapping turtle here in Arlington. On the left, we've got the common snapper, and on the right, we've got the alligator snapper. Now, the difference between the 2, I won't go into too much detail, but it's really easy to tell them apart. For one, if you saw a snapping turtle crossing the road, 99% of the time, it's going to be a common snapping turtle. If you found something that was in a ditch or a pond or something like that around here, or creeks or anything, typically it's going to be the common snapper. The alligator snapper that is here in Arlington resides in the Trinity River. Common snappers have got a really long neck. They can reach around and bite you pretty easy, whereas alligator snappers do not have a long neck. They can't really stick their head out much farther than what you see in the photograph there. But there's some things with the alligator snapper that make it impossible to confuse with any other type of turtle. One being the lure in the mouth, and I'll go into that in a moment. But this right here is a really old female alligator snapping turtle. We don't know exactly her age, but a couple of things signify, just how old she was. One was her size. She was about 71 pounds, and the yellow coloration that she has is typical of alligator snappers as they get older. Some turtles get darker, some kind of get suffusions of pink and red in their coloration. Snapping turtles tend to turn pale as they get older. With alligator snappers in particular, it's this nice buttery yellow. It can be obscured sometimes by the algae and all. But the other thing is that if you look at the bottom of her mouth right there, she's got a lure that she uses to attract fish. And they're the only vertebrate known to possess a lure located inside the mouth for an organ located in the mouth just for attracting prey. There are some snakes that have been seen using their tongue to lure, but the tongue has other purposes too. So alligator snappers are still really special with that regard. Look at the map right there, and you can see the range that we have them in here in Texas. One of the things I want to point out is that they do not currently occur west of the Trinity River Basin. And that map pretty much conforms to that. They used to be in the Trinity. And there was a really spectacular fossil found down near College Station, actually. And this was discovered back around 1911. It's at the museum at the University of Texas in Austin. And this was a Pleistocene alligator snapping turtle. The Pleistocene mammal site in Waco, Texas, which is also very close to the Brazos River, they typically find a good number of turtle fossils out there, including alligator snappers. Here's a close-up photograph of the lure. And I'll tell you what, at the end of the presentation, I'll show you a video of it instead of interrupting the whole vibe we got going right here. But the lure right there, it's controlled by 6 pairs of muscles that cause it to twitch and undulate. The turtle will hold its mouth open and do that and sit motionless while the tongue is wiggling around. They do sometimes when they see schools of fish, they'll lure and they'll actively move their head closer towards the prey, orienting in that direction. And the lures also come in a variety of colors. And we'll see some in the talk here. The interior of the mouth can also be a little bit variable in coloration, but fish don't actually always have to see something wiggling in the water in order to determine that there's a potential meal. They can feel those vibrations through the water and go to it themselves. And whenever they touch that, boom, it snaps and they're gone. They've got a nice cruciform shaped belly. This is common and common snapper. This is a feature of common snappers and alligator snapping turtles. And what it allows them to do is a couple of things. They've got a lot of range of mobility with those legs, and these guys are like all-terrain vehicles underwater. They can just go and prowl and climb around and stuff in a low center of gravity. Some of these females climb banks that are really, really impossibly steep for us to get up. But if you've got the center of gravity like a manhole cover and a lot of muscle and everything and go, then you can get where you got to go. They also will use the tail to help support them. And then also if they engorge themselves and get fat, they've got room to punch out a little bit. It's sort of like, busting that belt buckle loose and sitting back. The other thing that we noticed with the tail, it's been established and known that babies will hold on to the plants and things like that, secure themselves with a prehensile tail. Well, adults also do the same thing. We found this, this is a large adult male that was down at a study site in Southeast Texas. And we were able to capture using an underwater drone, document it supporting itself in part by wrapping its tail around that pole there. Viviana mentioned muscellans in turtles, and that's, if you pick up some of these turtles and hold them by the side, which is the intuitive way to grab a turtle, you're liable to have a smell on your hands after it. And the exact function and purpose of the musk that is exuded it's not established what it exactly is there for, but we do know that stress will cause it to be released. I'm not convinced that it's an anti-predatory agent, because lots of animals eat turtles, regardless of how much musk they might exude. But the arrows there, of course, are showing some musk that's actually coming out of the glands that are inside the shell. There's a couple more pairs of musk glands on here, but I don't have those highlighted. Here's a close-up of musk just exuding from the one of the pores right there in the shell. All turtles have these pores in their shells, by the way. They're even more visible in sea turtles, but I've never picked up a musky smell from a sea turtle yet. You know, the sheer enormity of these things is just a huge point of fascination with everybody. And forgive me for waiting so long in this talk to bring that up, but from a recent turtle survey at a study site in Cherokee County, we're able to pull up some of these behemoths, and they are just spectacular to be able to witness something like that. Here you go. I've got my hand I can palm a basketball, and I've got my hand interlocked between that male alligator snapper's fingers right there. I don't think he cared for it, but man, that was just cool. This is a female from the Arlington study site, the turtle that's being held, that is. And that's another old female right there. She was about close to 50 pounds, and not our largest, but definitely a really, really, it's always cool to see these old survivors still hanging on out there. And speaking of old survivors, and Viviana mentioned the value of private land ownership in Texas. It was a combination here in right outside of Dallas, basically. And this is an old male that is the record weight for Texas. It was captured by some researchers from Stephen F. Austin University, 211 pounds. And when I mentioned earlier about how when they get old, they turn yellow, you can definitely see that in this guy. But just a big chonker of a turtle. The total length on an animal like this is about 5 feet from tip of snout to the tip of the tail. And I got to tell you, 5 feet is about the max that they'll grow. And they often hit that at about 130 or so pounds, maybe about 100 pounds. You can start finding some that are close to that. At least here at our Texas sites, we've picked up on that. And then whenever they add on more weight, there's actually parts of the shell that even at 100 pounds have gaps that are gaps in the growth that still have to close in and stuff. So they're able to put on more fat and bone and muscle and everything, and gain mass while still staying the same relative length. And like I said earlier, it can be a lot of fun pulling up these traps. It can be a lot of work. Right here, I don't remember the weight of this total trap pull that we had. There's an adult female spiny softshell turtle on the left and 2 adult alligator snappers on the right. Big ones are great, but our first one we caught in Arlington that got us really excited was this one right here in the trap. And I pulled the trap up and thought it was empty until I raised it all the way out of the water. And that animal right there, that specimen was, I'd say, around a 3-year-old, 2 to 3-year-old age range based on size. And so finding a toddler in the Trinity River like that was just wow, what an extra treat. That just, that's a great sign to know that you've got a reproductively active population. Here's some close-ups of that little monster. So they've got, you notice a little bit of kind of pink salmon orangish colored tubercles there on its body and everything. Still, these guys are able to masterfully camouflage and disappear within their surroundings underwater. Just some more shots of that guy. And we've discussed her earlier. It was great to be able to get my son out there. And one of the reasons, one of the ways that I knew I would count on him showing up is if I forgot my gear measure turtles or anything. That's usually it. You'll see something great when you don't bring a camera, kind of philosophy. And yeah, being able, I can't imagine what dark path my life would have gone down had I been exposed to alligator snappers in Arlington at that age. This is another female that we got from the study site, another old girl. And you can see that nice buttery yellow that she's got on her face. Another female yet. This one was only about 25 pounds. So she's still kind of young. Here's a 110-pound male from a study site down in Liberty County. And this animal, notice the difference in coloration inside the mouth. Also a lot of tannin stained skin on this guy. An even larger one from Liberty County. And alligator snapping turtles, they eat whatever they can. They really enjoy, they're foodies of the turtles, man. These are the remains of a Sabine map turtle that was found from the stomach contents passed through by one alligator snapping turtle. And that's what a Sabine map turtle all put back together, or still together, looks like. Right here we've got some pecan shells and walnuts and maybe some acorns and stuff mixed in. They eat lots of nuts that fall from trees. In these jars right here on the left is Asian mussels, and then there's some turtle shell, and there's some fish bones, and and walnuts in the last jar. We've gotten bits of bird remains from some of the alligator snapping turtles that we've caught here in the Trinity. And one of the things that we do is we hold on to the turtles for a few days, specifically so that we can get an idea of anything they might pass. And that's given us a lot of good insight into their diet. They love muscadine grapes. Mustang grapes hanging over the river. The turtles will go there during the season when the grapes are ripe and wait for them to fall in the water. Finding snapping turtles with a belly full of grapes is not an uncommon thing. And we've kind of kicked around the idea of starting an orchard from the seeds passed by alligator snappers and then bottling the wine, but I don't have time to do that right now. So they eat lots of stuff, and a lot of the things they try to eat, a lot of those things are able to escape. This is an adult female spiny softshell turtle. And if you notice her injury right there, her leg is gone.
Not that Dave said.
But you can see at the top right there, that puncture wound, that conforms with the beak breaking into the body of the turtle, and then the lower jaw coming up and biting. She was probably grabbed while basking on a log or something with her leg hanging off the side. The remarkable thing is how well she healed. You can see the bone still sticking out of there, and just all the pale stuff is a really, really new thin layer of epithelium. Here's a signature bite mark from another adult female spiny softshell turtle. And you can see it matches up with the shape of the head as well. Common snapping turtle from Tarrant County. This one's doing a defensive posture, but she's had plenty of reason to be terrified before. That right there also is another, that's a textbook forensic mark of an alligator snapping turtle bite right there. At the very top, you can see where there's where the beak punctured right in through the shell. Close call for this girl. This female Mississippi map turtle, if you notice also right there, that's also another bite from an alligator snapper. And you can get an idea too how it's kind of easy for the snapper to see them like that. They've got good eyesight. And if you're a turtle living in the river, you kind of know that other turtles are basking on logs. So, and they love using fallen trees and such as their habitat. These guys, I consider alligator snapping turtles to be the apex of wherever they're at. Alligators get a lot of credit, and they deserve it. They're also an apex predator animal. Alligator snapping turtles are apex omnivores. And this right here is an example of those two species just hanging out and basking. A lot of folks don't get to see alligator snapping turtles basking because they're really shy and they're primarily aquatic. But they are active during the day and they're active during the night. I don't know exactly if they have a strict cycle when they go to sleep, but we do catch lots of them at night in traps. We catch them during the day as well. And then like right here, another one, in this case, this is an adult male cruising around in the water with an alligator. And this has also presented us with a challenge at this study site, because whenever we try to use our traditional trapping methods, we don't want to trap alligators. Alligators they create a whole headache getting into the trap, not just what it takes to get them out safely, but the safety of the alligator is what is jeopardized. And if they get into a trap and they feel like they just get scared for a moment, they'll stress out and they'll go into a lactic acid overload and they'll die, they'll drown. So we really have to stay on top of observing traps at this location. And we've even used hand capture, jumping on the turtles to catch them there. During the day, the one that you saw earlier with the alligator, this is that animal. And we noticed that about every 27 to 30 minutes, he would come up to get a breath of air. And he would always do it underneath the cover of low-hanging vegetation. They're really shy animals. This is a youngster out in Shelby County, Texas, right near the border of Louisiana. And you really have to know how to look for turtles. And then also you got to be really quiet and careful walking along their visual horizon. But having a camera like what we use the Nikon P1000, and it does the equivalent of a 3,000 millimeter lens. So we can get the rings of Saturn to show up with this camera right out of the box. Finding turtles is easy. This one's an adult male, periscoping around, checking out the view above the surface. And this is something also that is a testimony of behavior that folks don't really credit alligator snapping turtles with. And they don't see it because the turtles are shy and cryptic. Right here, see if I don't know if you guys see where I'm pointing with the mouse, but right here is about a 10-pound alligator snapping turtle that had climbed 6.5 feet above the surface of the water there. And you can see that animal right there, and then a little bit easier that way. They do that for thermoregulating, controlling parasites that might be on their skin or their shells, and then also just, probably a change of scenery every now and then, breath of fresh air. They do have some notoriety. And a lady sent this to me and told me it was her cousin and that he was, quote, jacking around with that turtle. And I don't think that it worked out well for him. There was a case that came out and was announced some years ago, back around 2015, I believe, of a self-described naturalist. And he was 14 years old. He got excited. He found a large adult male alligator snapper and he grabbed the wrong end. And that is the photographs that were published from the medical journal it was reported in. They don't have to hurt you just with their beaks. We learned this, Viviana learned this. If you see the marginal shell scutes where the arrow is pointed, she picked up the turtle and rested it against the top of her leg, and it left her with a little mark there. And it's actually really cool because it's a perfect rendering of alligator snapping turtle marginal scutes, if you're into that sort of thing. Some of the man-made hazards that these turtles, we live in their world and they live in ours. This happened down in Houston some years ago, where 3 of them crawled up into a pipe that the water department was working on. Unfortunately, 2 of them died, but this is one that was rescued, pulled out, and then relocated to a different spot not too far from there.
I need to go.
with the threats to these guys, it's good news and bad news. Bad news is that, of course, like a lot of things, it is human caused. The good news is that because of that, we've got a chance, we've got a chance to let people know about their actions and some of the potential consequences. I don't think that a majority of outdoorsmen or enthusiasts or fishermen want to cause undue stress or harm to these turtles. This is one from Buffalo Bayou in 2011. This male, he weighed 135 pounds, and the culprit for his death was a couple of fish hooks. Those were right in his throat. I can't tell you how many alligator snapping turtles get killed by fish hooks versus the ones that survive it. We do know that there are some that survive swallowing the hooks, but about 99% of all the dead ones that we salvage for our research collection have fish hooks in their throat. And they could be pretty large fish hooks. This was from a 30-pound female, and those are the catfish hooks with the weights right there. So if you can imagine, yeah, it might weigh a couple of pounds, but when it weighs, almost a tenth of your body weight, and it's got these hooks in your throat, that's not a good thing to have. So she drowned just like the larger one did, and this one as well, also. So we do find those. We get them sometimes if we find them with hooks. The veterinary staff at Brad and Katie Halka, right there at Green Oaks Animal Hospital, they provide us with a lot of help on that. And so we're able to go there and get assistance with having hooks removed from turtles that are in our study site. Here's some, this x-ray right here shows a couple of fragments, a few fragments of one fish hook that I think ultimately began to rust and break away. There is wanton killing that occurs. This is Turkey Creek in Anderson County, Texas. Two alligator snapping turtles were caught by a fisherman, and then they were shot in the head. That is this one also was in Leon County, and it was a female, and she was found on the land. And at the time of year and everything, it was suggestive that she had gone out to lay eggs. I went and recovered. The landowner fired his employee for shooting the turtle, and I was able to go out to salvage the remains, and there were no eggshells left. Scavengers had gotten to it before I did, but if there were eggs there in her at that time, if she hadn't laid them, then I would have found empty eggshells. That animal right there previously, the remarkable thing is that someone had shot her 3 times before, and they shot her with a small caliber rifle, something like a 17 or a 22, but she survived that. It was the gunshot to the head that she couldn't survive. And just like the soft-shell turtle with the incredible trauma that she recovered from in the less than sterile conditions of the Trinity River, this turtle right here was also able to heal up from those bullet wounds. I don't have the slide handy on this, but on the underside of the shell, you can see where the bone had already started to regrow. Poaching is something that happens here in Texas because we have good populations of turtles, and that's why people come here, because the turtling is pretty good. Texas never really had much of a commercial operation with alligator snapping turtles that I'm aware of, like other states did prior to the years when they became protected. But this is from the sentencing of some poachers I attended back in 2017. And these are just some of the things that they had there at their operation. So these guys were they were catching turtles in Texas and then selling the meat on the black market in Louisiana. In Louisiana, it's become a laundering state for illegal activity with alligator snapping turtles because the current law allows every citizen of Louisiana to legally take one per day. So someone could say that they were just kind of stockpiling them or whatever, but these are animals from that confiscation. And there was a little bit of morbidity with this story, and I'll go ahead and share it with you. So The family that was involved, it was this lady Viola Guidry and her 2 sons and an accomplice. And the day that the day after the search warrant was executed, she was found dead of gunshot wound. They didn't go after homicide or anything. It was ruled a suicide. However, some colleagues went to recover turtles from the pond they were holding alligator snapping turtles in prior to slaughter. And their instructions from the agents were not only get the turtles, but gather all the bone fragments that you could, if you find any bone material. The reason for that is that there was a young boy that had gone missing, and the last 2 people that he was ever seen with were a couple of these guys that were busted here. And they didn't find it. They found some, but it turned out to be pig and not human, fortunately. But yeah, it's just not a really high brow class of people that engage in this behavior. That's just a poaching. These guys also had a big opiate problem going on, according to what the agents told me from when they went inside the home. So that was also something, in my opinion, that was probably fueling a lot of their activity, was supporting their own addiction. So one of the things we could do is that these guys got caught because a citizen tipped them off. And I think that this is largely preventable because we've got a really kick-ass animal here in Texas. And I think that getting Texans excited about what we got is going to go a long way towards their conservation. This just kind of shows like the route of how turtles are taken into Louisiana before the trade. And one of the things that happens with alligator snappers is that large males are really coveted as trophy animals to Asian collectors. One of the things that happens is that from Asia, these guys will get on social media and stuff. They'll start asking everybody, you know, hey, how much for that turtle? They're just looking for somebody to reply and someone to say, tell them for how much. And often the way the deal is set up is that the turtle has gotten to Louisiana somehow and dropped off, and then it's picked up by someone. The money is wired to the bad guy, the poacher, and the turtle is slow boated cargo to China. And I don't care if they're doing it for their own breeding farms or anything like that. There's no damn reason why our Texas turtles need to wind up in China. But let me talk about some good stuff. This is some good news that was sent to me by Mr. Jeff Duncombe, and this is a female alligator snapping turtle returning to the river after he found her walking across the land. That was in late March, early April that year, and that's a really good indicator of mama going to lay her eggs. An old buddy of mine, Mike Howlett, sent this to me from Cypress Creek in Houston, or just outside of Houston. And that's another female. And once again, you got a female leaving the water, and she is more than likely going to go out there and dig herself a nice nest and bury some ping pong balls. Using social media has helped us out so much. We've been able to learn so much more about turtle populations here in Texas. And this right here, what you're looking at, is absolutely magnificent. Feast your eyes on this. We got a post on Texas Turtles. A fellow said, hey, I just watched this alligator snapper lay eggs. And I think we had his phone ringing or something 10 minutes later. And we went out there, and sure enough, she did. And we were able to carefully excavate and take detailed record data on the eggs themselves. Right there, you see a Siamese egg. It was 2 separate turtles, though. But we were able to get data on the eggs and everything, return them back to the nest, cover them back up, and then using hardware mesh, we really reinforced with rebar and tent stakes and big spikes and everything to keep raccoons and skunks and any other predator away from it. And that worked. That's a great way to protect turtle nests if you have turtles nesting on your land or someplace. And then it allows you a way to visually inspect to see if turtles have hatched and come out. We were really anxious about this. excuse me, and about 100 days later, all this vegetation and everything had grown back over it. And we knew from our colleagues at the Tishomingo Fish Hatchery in Oklahoma, who were actually breeding lots and lots of alligator snappers and returning them into the wild, that 100 days was the incubation range. So on day 100, we opened up the nest. And here you go. These are like little pecan praline looking babies. They're just encrusted with sand. And they were all completely, not all of them were out of the eggs, but they were all completely in this torpor. They just were just not moving hardly at all. Well, I don't think I would either if I was covered in sand. But as soon as they got rinsed off, they were complete ingrates, man. They were wanting to bite and everything right out of the egg. They come out with a pugnacious attitude, and they're just really, really cool. You can see the egg tooth right there on the right underneath the nostrils. That's used to help slice the parchment like eggshell open so they can get out. If you notice the velvet-like texture of the shell, that is really helpful for them to get a lot of sediment and everything attached to it, and then they can camouflage, and they can already really well blend into their surroundings, but that aids them even more. And it was great to be able to go back, find the nest, get the turtles, and record data on them, and then we escorted them back to their mother pond, or I'm sorry, their creek. It was a creek where the female crawled out of. And so we got all the babies back in there. It was about an 80% hatch rate. Some of the eggs were infertile. There were a couple of eggs where the babies died, but they hit the water, and those guys were curious. As we had some babies that one in particular, we watched, it started to chew on a piece of toothache tree, prickly ash, and they were just curious, and they started going around, and some started kind of like nibbling on substrate and everything, and a lot of them hunkered down, and then others went off into deeper water. So I wish them well. Mentioning the snapper paloozas that Viviana brought up, that has been tremendous. And these events, we started it with a community down in Hardin County. And it's great because going back to the private property concept, it's also a gated community there in the big thicket. And the citizens and all living there, the community, love the fact that they've got these really big and cool turtles out there at their place. So Snapper Palooza, we conduct that twice a year. And it's really provided us with a lot of good data and insight. This is just kind of going over some of the ways that we obtain that. They're setting up some of the hoop traps. The shell with the numbers on it gives you an idea of a numerical system that you can use for tagging or for notching turtles. And for notching them, what we do is we take a hacksaw blade and we might make a 2 or 3 millimeter deep little incision right there, not really even getting to the bone yet, but just through the keratin. That's one way that we can visually and physically see the notch and identify the turtle as a recapture. The other way we do is if you look in the bottom left hand of the screen, those are the pit tags and the little transponders. And so we're able to use that to establish recaptures. We've got some big traps. We're catching big turtles. And we go to places where we're wanting to find those. And it's and checking the traps and all is something that we do. We do it throughout the day. We don't want to have an accident happen where something could get snagged. Fortunately, we haven't had that happen before with alligator snappers. And so we're staying on with that discipline. Doing this event like this also, it brought out a lot of nerds from a lot of different groups. And we've had university groups come out, local community members that are really enthusiastic about it, folks that have been stalwarts with us over the years turtling, and the data we've gained from these animals, aside from just the finding out the ticklish spots on alligator snappers, we've been able to learn a lot more about their life in the wild through their biochemistry. And right here we've got Tara, and she's an amazing veterinary technician that has really helped us a lot with the phlebotomy of these animals. And we draw blood samples from them for both for DNA sampling as well as for doing total blood count chemistry and workups on hormone levels and so forth. Just by doing that, we're even able to, do a little bit of a slight health assessment. The arrow is pointing to a blood parasite that is that's unique. I think I think it probably will show up in other turtles, but it was first discovered in alligator snappers. We also do assessments on the reproductive condition of them. And a collaborator that we've had at this particular study site, and the study sites are all different, and some of them allow for different types of observations, different types of trapping and all. And this one right here at this spot, we've been able to collaborate with a fantastic biologist, Mandy Gordon, from University of Houston, Clear Lake. And right there, they're doing ultrasounds on a female, checking out her condition. And her condition was ripe. She had eggs in her. This is from earlier this year. And those were really close to the size of a mature egg. And we think that probably within a week or two of us bothering her for a while, she went and laid those eggs. We use a little handheld metal detectors. They're great for getting an idea if they've got fish hooks in them. Occasionally you might find really old ones that might have, other anomalies in the shell and such. But one thing to point out is that the light areas on the nose of this guy and just over the eye and just behind the eye, that's old scar tissue right there. And male alligator snapping turtles, they are not polite about having access to females in the presence of any other male. I can't speak to their manners with the ladies, but among other males, they don't hold anything back. This is all healed up injuries that were more than likely caused by another male combating with him over a territorial access. There's an old injury from a tail that healed, and it resulted in a bifurcated tip. We do see tails that are with puncture bites in them and all. The claw right here, that could have also more than likely happened by having another male bite it before in the foot during combat. Here's some fresher wounds from a study site out in Cherokee County. And we find these during the spring also. And it's a prime reproductive time for them. Here's some more ouchies. There's a laceration to the side of the head of this male. And the other thing I'll tell you too is that a lot of times we find them also on the cloaca of other males. Sometimes we find males like that, and the reason for it is because they don't hold back. They will fight dirty. These guys will go after trying to maim their competition to where they can't even reproduce. But reproduction does happen. And at our study site that we hold Snapperpalooza at, not only do we find females that are gravid with eggs, what tipped us off to the location was a citizen who found a hatchling alligator snapper on the road out there. It had just gotten hit by a car, but he just thought, oh my gosh, didn't even know we had these things. And then our first survey out there, we had a young boy, that's this young man right here, bring us a little baby that he caught while he was fishing, just at the edge of the lake there. And that right there is what we have to do. Is I think we've got an easy challenge in front of us. I don't care how many video games, I don't care about devices or any electronic connectivity that way. It's not a strong enough thing to challenge the awe and wonder that happens whenever you're in the presence of these turtles, especially to a child. And that's something right there. It's something that I loved as a kid. And I know that biophilia is something that Homo sapiens has and has had for years and years. And I don't care if it's an appreciation that somehow evolved away from the dinner table. It's still a fascinating part of us. And getting kids out there right now is going to be, it's always the important thing. It's always what's going to matter for the future of these animals. And we've partnered with Coyote Peterson. We've gotten to have millions of kids to be able to see alligator snapping turtles from Texas. And really proud to be able to do that. I always was amazed by these animals the first time I saw one in an aquarium. And I think for children today, it's no different. These are some of the publications from 2018 to present. And this, I have to apologize. These are only, well, I'm not going to apologize. I rescind my apology. These are all publications regarding alligator snapping turtles that we've done since 2018. This year in 2023, all of these have since been published. And we're really glad to be able to contribute tangibly to the science of these animals. And also we want to be able to reach out and do something tangible for the folks here in Texas. We've had a lot of good people support us and believe in what we're doing. And that is something that has really, really helped buoy us along with this. And something I got to tell all you guys out there and ladies, I know that you love conservation. I know that you love Arlington. I know you love Texas, and I hope now you even love Texas turtles. And I'm pretty sure that you like enjoying going out and looking top of your game and sharp as tacks. And how can you do that? I'm glad you asked. You can go to texasturtles.org, go to shop and support, check out our merch, and get the coolest t-shirt in all of herpetology. And the proceeds from this help us do that. And yeah, so I tell you what, you guys had a great time. We were fantastic, and thank you for having us. And I'll take questions and make up answers as I go.
Okay, I can read you some of the questions from the chat. One was, how long do they live?
Okay, well, to know exactly how long they live, we got to know their birthday. And that's a challenge. We don't have the birthdays on hardly any of these old ones. But it is really safe to say that these animals live as long as people, about that same age capacity. They're a long-lived vertebrate like we are. And if you have one that made it to 100, I wouldn't doubt it. One of the things that's gone out there's been a little bit of exaggeration of their age. There's an old story about musket balls and Civil War bullets being found in the shells, and that is a distorted story. There was an old naturalist who was a turtle guy, and he was joking with some people that he had some pet alligator snappers in Florida. And they had holes in the shells, and some people they asked what caused it, and he said, "Oh, it had to be a mini ball from the Civil War." Well, no turtle with a mini ball from the Civil War has ever been documented in any museum. No alligator snapper, and so there you go. That eliminates that myth right there. But yeah, they live a long time. And let's see here. I got a question. Christy Robeson. Christy writes in, do male alligator snappers fight to the death like other animals, or just maim and injure and then move on? Well, Christy, I have to say, not all animals fight to the death. Sometimes the reproductive competition is a wrestling match, and it's just, you know, going through the motions, see who can like spiral around, like in the case of rattlesnakes. They'll do that. They don't hurt each other whenever they spar for the attention of the demure snake. And with alligator snappers, I wouldn't be surprised if some were maimed to the point that they were compromised and died. I would not be surprised if some died, but it does seem that most are able to survive that. I don't think that it's necessarily the intention of anything other than being all they can be during that combat situation. I hope that answered your question. Let's see, what's the survival rate of hatchling turtles generally? You're right, and thanks again, Christy, good question. We know that it's really low. So basically, if you look at a turtle nest, about 80, it's safe to say around 80% of turtles' nests are predated upon before they can even incubate. Then out of those babies that make it to the wild, they hit the water, they provide, let's put it this way, turtles provide a lot of energy back into the environment, energy in the way of calories to predators and other animals that are in the system. So really, that's one of the reasons why we have to have all the turtles in the wild that we can, so that we can continue to have turtles into the future. Let's see here. Who else do we got? Let me see if I can scroll this. Where can we learn more about the Pleistocene specimens? Well, Taylor, you'll be happy to know that you can go and arrange yourself a tour of that. And we can tell you who to get in touch with. Give me a holler, and I can help set you up. Also, if you Google that, if you Google alligator snapping turtle fossil, University of Texas, Austin, they're really proud of it. And it's easily on the web, and that should provide you with the museum contact information as well. Let's see here. Oh, great to hear. There you go. Yeah, let's see. We got any other questions? Looks like some of the questions were
There's some earlier, you started at the bottom.
yeah, okay. Well, yeah, it says Grace wrote in. Viviana hinted at the ecological role of turtles. Can you expand on that a bit? Absolutely.
Yes, please.
If you're going along and you're a mover and shaker of the local ecology, you're doing that by a lot of different ways. One, you could be impacting, seed dispersal. That's a one real major way that these guys contribute back, because they eat so many variety of plants in their diet. In fact, I got to tell you, the amount of plant material that we find from our specimens here in the Trinity River is vast compared to any of the prey items that we find recovered from their stomach contents. And they will eat roots and leaves and lilies and all kinds of stuff, lotus, and they'll even pass the lotus seeds as well. So they do a lot for vegetation and seed dispersal. But then you could also attribute turtles to scavenging and keeping waterways clear. Even in some instances with certain plants, some other species of turtles have an affinity for that, and keep certain plants, could help with keeping certain plant growth in check. Okay. All right. With participating in the survey, we are really picky. and the reason for it is obvious. We don't want to, we don't want to give the idea that it's an open dinner call. But we're not North Korea. And I think that if somebody passes the nerd test and if you know the secret handshake, just get with us, and we'll decide if we like you enough.
I'll chime in a little bit here, Christy. The Fair Park one is the one that's that I can take volunteers a little bit easier, because I do an orientation, and I do give people the one-on-one on handling these feisty creatures. The things like Snapperpalooza, like I said, just about everything is closed, and I max out on volunteers really quickly. Like, I've had a year-long waiting list on the majority of our stuff. So Snapperpalooza being a weird one, that's, like I said, I cap it at 12 to no more than 15 people. That's almost pushing it to have too many people. But the Fair Park one is the easiest that I could find a job for you, if that makes sense. Shoot me an email. I have a list of everybody that has ever emailed me wanting to help, and we'll go from there. So even if you don't hear from me in this next year before an orientation, I still have you on the list, if that makes sense. I'm going to scroll down. Oh, hold on. Somebody.
Oh,
I'm scrolling down.
I got to read the question I was going to answer.
Oh.
Grace Darling writes, other than man, hey, women could be a threat too. What other threats are there to turtles? Any natural enemies besides gators? Not just snappers, but all turtles and tortoises. And I got to tell you, there are other threats. The weirdest threat that we documented happened in late 2018 or no, early 2019, and it sure looked like there was a virus that hit a population of turtles in a residential pond in Fort Worth, and it was completely fatal. The virus has been identified by virologists working in Florida. We believe it's the same thing based upon the symptoms and all. It's completely fatal to them. And one of the things that we've noticed is that we think that it's largely located within places where there's a good amount of human interference, i.e. people are releasing unwanted pets and so forth. And I know that comes from a good place inside people. They want to see the turtle free, but that's another reason why please don't release your turtles. You could unintentionally get them sick, the ones in the wild, that is. And we are still keeping vigil so that we can get the appropriate tissue samples to our partners out in Florida to determine whether or not it is that same virus that's here in Texas. There are things like climate change, and I know we hear about that, but that's definitely one. A lot of turtles, their eggs, the sex of the babies, are temperature dependent during the incubation process. So if you have temperatures that are too high, with some species, you could have a predominant or a complete hatching of one sex over another. Ideally, you might want to have both boys and girls hatch out, but that's something that can interfere with turtles as well. But yeah, there's so many things. Just like I could go down a whole litany of predators that eat them, but those are just some of the things to be aware of. And I think the idea here about wild turtles and keeping captives in captivity and away from the wild is going to be something that could help us out a lot. Let me go down to that question that she was telling me about. Now, let's see here. Oh, thanks, Phil. Good to have you, man. Oh, good to hear from you, Katrina. Let's see. We've got and thank you again, Grace. It's been awesome talking for you guys. I'm glad you like the gruesome photos. So let's see here. And I don't know if we got any more questions for that.
Ranger game 0-0.
So there you go. Thanks, y'all.
Well, thank our present presenters